and construction supervision, and also the tender for road rehabilitation and overlay program phase 4, and patching, overlay of roads in Pinnacle Ridge and asphalt patching on various local and collector roadways. Items closed for engineering. Tender for traffic signal repair work posted. Full replacement at 97th Ave and 100th Street, and one pole replacement at 98th Ave and 100th Street. Tender for phase 2 of the sidewalk program, 96th Ave from 92nd Street to 93rd Street, 100th Street Service Road from 108th Ave to 109th Ave, and 109th Ave from 99th Street to 100th Street Service Road. And tender for storm line cleaning and inspection. Construction activities have started throughout the city. Current and upcoming project information is available on the city's website on the traffic planner. Also, ATCO Electric has notified the city that their resources are being redirected to address damage resulting from the forest fires. This will impact city capital projects, conversations occurring to determine what that looks like, and ATCO will provide more information in 2 weeks. For facilities, in general, the maintenance team has been monitoring and adjusting as necessary all city facility HVAC systems to minimize air quality issues, as we're all aware of. The outdoor pool, the pool was filled last week, and with chemical balancing underway, it is on schedule to open Saturday, June 3rd. The service center, the transportation salt shed replacement project is complete. It's nice to see that finally done. And the Eastlink shutdown, right now we're finalizing the scope of work and budget requirements for the fall shutdown for Eastlink. The Gymnix lift replacement project has been awarded and a startup meeting is being scheduled. In the transportation department, prepping for Stampede Parade on Saturday, many outdoor programs delayed due to poor air conditions, asphalt plant opening this week, and will mark the start of the paving season. And in the Parks Department, the Fire Department coordination. So Parks is actively involved with the Grande Prairie Fire Department Urban Wildland team, initiated last week and is assisting the Fire Department on 2 fronts. First one, removal of encampment sites as potential ignition sources within the Bear Creek corridor. And 2, removal of wooded debris from areas within South Bear Creek to reduce potential fuels within the forest. Since last week, crews have removed approximately 90,000 pounds of fuel. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Is there any questions for him? Mr. Thiessen, or Councillor Thiessen?
It's okay. You can call me Mr. Chair Bosch. Thank you. Thanks for the update and report, Mr. Phillips. Just a question. Driving up and down 92nd Street, I've noticed that there's been some staking along the sides of the road between Riverstone and Countryside North. It's okay if you don't have the answer for this, but is the intention and plan for those stakings to widen the road or to put shoulders on that portion of the road?
Through the chair, unfortunately, I cannot give you an answer to that at this time.
All right, I'm sure Chief Glavin is watching and he's making copious notes as always. So
he's online.
Oh,
if
cool.
If you would like to answer this, or has the ability to.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. I don't have the answer, but that's certainly something that we'll get to council. And I apologize, I'm off-site today and not sure about how good my internet connection is or will continue to be.
Oh, you're doing well. Thank you. Is there any other questions? Not seeing anything. Councillor O'Toole?
Yeah, I was just wondering where that 90,000 pounds come from. Was it along the trails or was it in the bush, or how did we come across that to remove it?
Through the chair, the Parks Director is here and he could answer that question much better than I can.
Oh, geez. You got people here. I like that.
Through the chair, there's been a large focus, again, in conjunction with the fire department, in an area of South Bear Creek, in particular in the wooded area behind Country Club West. So this is an area that we received advice from the fire department to conduct some of that clearance. So we had the ability to connect with a wildland expert, obviously in relation to the Dunes West fire, and so consulted with that individual on site to provide some guidance for our urban arborists on how to remove and properly manage some fuels in that area. So,
So that would be near where the unknown bike trails are?
Through Chair Bosch, yeah, it's an area there's no exact trail system in the area that we're currently looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Case. Anybody else? Not seeing anything. I look for someone to accept the. We don't need to. Okay, it's been a while since I've been here. All right. I was gone.
You've had a car accident too.
That's right. Anything I say that is wrong, I'll blame it on the car accident. We'll move into other business, naturalization. Mr. Phillips, if you could introduce this.
Thank you, through the chair. I'm assuming that is Mr. DeVries that is presenting this report. Take it away, sir.
Through Chair Bosch, there is no report today, although this item is on the agenda. So certainly happy to answer any questions that committee may have regarding naturalization.
Thank you, Mr. DeReeves. Yes, I think there probably was some discussion that was needed. Yeah, I got you. Councillor Thiessen and then Mayor Clayton.
Hey, thank you very much, Chair Bosch. And Councillor Berg's in the queue too, I noticed. Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. Thanks for being here today, Case. Recently, Council received a letter from concerned community members around naturalization, especially considering the fires that ripped through the Alberta North as a potential fire hazard. Now, as my belief is it can work both ways, and especially dry seasons, they can turn into tinder and start moving fire across the landscape relatively fast. At the same time, once it's greened out and it has the rain that we're receiving today, it can actually help create a buffer to prevent fires. So just a question in response to that is naturalization, is it a contributor or does it help safeguard against fires?
Through Chair Bosch, I don't know if I can accurately answer that question without information from the fire department, but what I can say is that we are in that process of gathering that information. I've been involved in a number of meetings with the fire department over the past week, obviously initiating some of the work within the forested areas. A lot of the scope of naturalization initially, this is 2018, 2019, were on locations that were either unsafe to mow, meaning they were too steep for the mowers to be on, or B, in wet conditions, so wet areas. And then as well, there was some environmental reserve where mowers were currently active that, given the name environmental reserve, likely shouldn't have been. So that initial scope is a scope where going back and potentially reinitiating mowing operations would be fairly challenging, if not impossible. There is another scope, though, that was done and has been done over the last few years of adding these sites. I won't be able to give you a direct answer on that until I have time to review these sites with the fire department and lean on their expertise as to, are these sites places where we should reconsider, or are these places that are, in their opinion, fine as they are? So it is something that we hope to work through with the fire department as part of a larger program that they're hoping to initiate with evaluating risk across the community.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dreves. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. Yeah, I had the opportunity to have a meeting with the Fire Smart experts from the province as well as the fire department. There are a few areas that were identified as the work that should be done first, as adjacent to Country Club, as well as a couple other areas. The conversation led me to believe that council should have another consideration and discussion on naturalization. Whether this means that some of the areas that we are naturalizing that aren't steep and or wet could be mowed in the fall so that the regrowth comes back in the new year is significantly less and doesn't have thick, dense thatching under it. That was one of the conversations that was had. There are areas that council is aware of that aren't wet or steep that are currently being naturalized adjacent to residential areas. In my personal opinion, these are areas that council needs to do have a further discussion on consideration when they're adjacent to residential areas. I think that if nothing else, the tragic happenings of fires across Alberta needs to make municipalities more fire smart. There are opportunities that in the discussion we had last week For example, in Fort McMurray, the fire department subscribes to an app that can fire smart your house. They talk about the immediate proximity, the intermediate proximity, the larger proximity. And in Fort McMurray, they have now, through support of the fire department, fire smarted 700 homes in Fort McMurray. And so this app gives you an opportunity to go around your yard, show you where there's dangerous initiatives and sort of pieces of your property that should be fire smarted. We do know that there are areas in the city that the covenants of that area still suggest or mandate that cedar shakes are the roofing material. And so I think that it's time for the city council to have this discussion, to be more aware of our fire smart initiatives and opportunities. And with that, in my opinion, naturalization is one of those that should be part of that discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. I do agree with that. Councillor Berg, and then Councillor Bressy and Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Bosch. So a couple questions around mowing. I know that we did a pause on mowing, and I totally agree with that for spark safety. If should we hit a rock at the wrong place, it could start another fire. So when do we expect now with our potential 3 inches of rain that you guys will get back to mowing?
Yeah, through Chair Bosch, we are initiating that as we speak. So with the rains, we've also made some small adjustments to our operations to have a bit more suppression available within or near the equipment. So we will be getting back into our regular mowing operations.
Terrific. And then a follow-up, again, an email from a concerned citizen around back alley mowing. And the question is, let me just abbreviate this. Is the city no longer cutting back alleys?
Through Chair Bosch, we will be conducting that program as well. So that program was also on pause with the other main mowing pause. Yeah. Okay. So those programs will be initiated. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bressy.
Great. Thank you. I'm glad we're having these conversations about Fire Smart as a community. I've always had some worries about that area of South Bear and some of this Fire Smart stuff. So it's good that we're having these conversations. Not necessarily looking for a response, but just if naturalization does come back to council, I know the questions I'll be asking is, I don't know if it's just, do we do naturalization, yes or no? Or are there different ways we should do naturalization? For example, should we be planting or cultivating trees that are more fire resistant while cutting out the trees that volunteer themselves that are dangerous around houses? And I've got a very lay understanding of it, but I just want to flag that I won't just be, if this comes to council again, it won't just be a yes or no for me. I'll also be asking, are there just ways we can do it smarter? Because I really do believe in naturalization if it's done properly.
Thank you. I missed Councillor O'Toole. Councillor Thiessen, you already spoke on, so go ahead, Councillor O'Toole.
Just wondering, are we going to be bringing the sheep back to do some of the areas around the ball diamonds in that area along the creek? We've had them for a few years. And I don't know if they were back last year or the year before, but they seem to do a pretty decent job.
Through Chair Bosch, the goats will not be back. They haven't been for a few years. There were some other, I guess, unintended consequences of that type of an operation, but we do retain consultants to help us with specifically noxious weed control in and around that area.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Thiessen?
Yeah, just my bunny's really good at eating dandelions. I can send him to your backyard if you like. Yeah, and it's probably not good to let him run. He might naturalize himself there. No questions for Case. Just wanted to pick up on what the mayor was talking about as far as doing fire smart principles and how we do this. I think naturalization is important, but I also think I think it was in 2004 or whenever, that the city changed the development procedures for the amount of space between houses and the side yard setback to 0.9. It's very clear, like when we're talking about fire, I know the conversation is about naturalization, but when we have that conversation about being fire smart, I hope that we'll even have our development put in there as well, because having less than 2 meters between each house will make one house go up, make two houses go up, make three houses go up. So it just creates a domino effect. And as Councillor Berg alluded to earlier today in the meetings, it doesn't take a lot of investment to see when you start adding the houses go up that we're losing that. So if we can developed properly as well as naturalize the area, I think that should all be part of the discussion. So just a comment.
Thank you,
there.
Councillor Thiessen. Mayor Clayton.
Chair Bosch, I'll ask maybe Mr. Miller what you think the best process for this to come back. Is there a Fire Smart workshop planned for council? Would you like me to make a motion to bring back a report on fire smarting opportunities? Or is there things in the work? Tell me what you'd like to see today.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. I think probably the most appropriate thing would be to make a motion to request a report be brought back on what the city's intentions are for fire smarting in the future. I have had conversations with Mr. Glavin, and it is on his radar to focus more on fire smart.
Thank you.
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Just 1 second. I'd just like to add something to Mr. DeReeves. I have significant concern about Muskogee Park and the corridor. That's the jewel of our city, and I would love to see some sort of plan of attack for fire smart in that particular area as well, because that's not something you can rebuild within decades, right? So, anybody else? Oh, Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. If we're concerned about areas, I'm also, I guess, for me, concerned about the Crystal Lake area. If we have quite a nice tree bluff up there, which is beautiful, but I guess we're gonna look at fire smart. That would be another area that could be a concern for me.
Councillor Thiessen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Bosch. With the talk about the fire break earlier, ever since we engaged in that conversation, simply because I feel partly blessed. I live just north of where the fire break's going to come in, but there's also still that woodland area as well as the dry ephemeral wetland as well that for the last week and a half, I know members of my household, we've been scoring the skyline, looking for smoke, making sure that if a fire started up there that it wouldn't come and take out Bickles Pond and, the Bat Cave 2 and all that other stuff that's in the area. So I would definitely look south, the countryside south as well, if we're looking at fire smart principles. Because my concern is I'm very thankful for the fire break, but what happens if the fire starts north of the fire break? Then we're still putting all those houses and homes at risk. So something to be considerate and mindful of.
Thank you. I think ultimately, Mr. DeReeves, we're just starting from square one here right now with the recent conditions and things that we have to look at in regards to climate change and how Alberta has had significant changes with disasters, not unlike BC or other areas. Mayor Clayton.
Yeah, just some of the comments that were made in regards to other areas on the fire smart assessment that was done. Treat areas are one thing, but they're not the biggest concern of fuel source. And so when they do the assessment, it's based on spruce and not the deciduous as much. So when the information comes back, you'll be, it's quite an education session, I think, in regards to not assuming that because there's a tree in your backyard that's a risk, and so there's less risk with certain trees. But I'd be prepared to make a motion if you have no other questions for administration.
I don't see any.
So
go ahead.
I would move that direct committee. I would move committee direct administration to bring back a fire smart report to council for consideration. It would be including areas of need, residential covenants, and naturalization, as well as any other pertinent information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Any comments or questions? I'll call the question. Mayor Clayton?
I think I voted, but it's not registering. Mayor Clayton in favor.
Thank you. And that is unanimously carried. And thank you, Mr. DeReeves, for that. I see a lot of work for you in your future. Sorry. And with that, we will look at the outstandings items list. Would you like to attend to that, Mr. Phillips?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. There are 4 items on the outstanding items list. 2 of them are slated for a Q2 report back, and 2 for a Q3 report back, unless council has any, or committee has any questions.
Thank you. Just one moment. We have Mr. Glavin online. Go ahead, Mr. Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Bosch. I just wanted to address one of the items on there, which is item 1272, Swanhaven Outdoor Rink. This request for a report was at the last council meeting, and it was looking for some information to come back on consultation and other information for the Swanhaven Outdoor Rink. With regard to consultation, there isn't any additional consultation planned. If that were something that council wanted to do, that is something we could certainly take some direction on, but it would have some impacts on timelines with regard to tendering and construction, and ultimately the design of the facility. At the last committee meeting where administration presented with the recommendation to approve additional funding that went to council and was ultimately approved. Subsequent to that, our intention was to go inform the community that we were building it, but it was not to have substantial deviation from the design that was presented to committee, aside from some of the colors that we were coordinating with the school district on to match the school. So I just wanted to give that information. We can certainly bring forward a report here by the end of Q2 to address the motion, but I'm not sure if it would meet the intention that council has currently.
Thank you, Chief Glavin. I guess we could ask this question right now to our committee if we want to bring anything further and making a motion for council. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bosch. In my opinion, valuable information at the discussion, Chief Glavin, would be alternative locations as well as alternative design efforts. I think that doing some personal exploring through the internet, I've seen in areas such as Quesnel and other communities that there are facilities that look slightly different than the one that was proposed, and speaking with other municipalities, I know that there are initiatives out there that would give us an opportunity to partner with industry on some of these designs. So, not saying that, I think council heard loud and clear from one resident of Swanhaven. I know that there are other areas of our community that are looking for recreational assets. If council wants to have that discussion that maybe Swanhaven isn't interested in hosting that facility, then maybe we should have discussions of other locations. So I think bringing other potential locations as part of that discussion would be valuable. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Anyone else have a comment? No? I concur. I think the design, in my opinion, needs to be looked at. I think we can do better. And that's all I'll say on that for now. We'll see what comes up in the future. But thank you, Chief Glavin. And Councillor Thiessen.
I would move that council approve the outstanding items list as amended. I know there wasn't any clear amending dates, but there was definitely clear direction. So,
Chief Glavin, you're comfortable with the previous comments in that situation?
Thank you, Chair Bosch. Yes, I think we understand what to bring back. We'll be aiming for the end of Q2, so long as that's doable after I talk to my team.
Thank you. Sounds good. All right. Any comments or questions? I'll call the question. Thank you.
Mayor Clayton in favor.
Thank you. And that is unanimous. So I will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all.